All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start on these hold downs right here. In the previous video, we went ahead and got the blocks milled into size on our width. Now we do need to mill the thickness down. These are 3/4 thick, and these blocks right there are actually 11/16, which is 687 nominal size. So we do have that one op that we still need to do. So we'll have to take care of that. And then other than that, mill it in the thickness. We've got to put a hole in it, and then we've got this radius to machine in it. You know, this step, this radius, and then of course the two radiuses right there. So I've decided there was a couple ways that I thought about maybe doing this, and I thought about doing it maybe in the lathe. I thought that would be creative, just to swing it in the lathe. So that's one way to do it. But I think I just want to continue using the milling machine for this project. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a fixture. I got this piece right here. This is some 1045. This was a hydraulic rod, a little disc that I had cut out of a hydraulic rod. So we're going to take this, machine it into a fixture that this piece will actually bolt down to. We'll actually utilize this hole that's drilled in this block. We'll drill and tap it, and I'm going to machine a little channel across here that this will fit in. Keep it nice and centered up, you know, keep it in place. Square to the axis of the fixture right there. And so we'll have a channel milled on there. We'll have our hole drilled and tapped. We'll use a bolt right there to get it bolted in. I'm going to have to take this and turn the head of this bolt down, reduce the diameter there to clear, and we'll bolt that down. And what we'll do is we'll use a rotary table and the milling cutter that we previously used, and we'll actually mill that in there and mill that radius. So this radius right here, by the way, is a 3/4 inch radius. You can see there by using my radius gauge. So 3/4 inch radius, so that would equal a 1.5 inch diameter. And then, so this radius right here, this is a 9/16 radius on that top side right there. And I do have we're going to use a corner round again for that. I actually have a corner round right here. And even though this says 5/8, this one was a custom grind made by Dual, a 9/16 radius. And it fits that perfect. So we'll go over there to the K&T and cut our radius on the top using that system right there. So we got lots of fun stuff to do. Let's go ahead and jump into it and get going. We're going to use our 3-jaw chuck here to face both sides, get it nice and square, parallel. I'm going to be using one of my low profile chucks on this job. This will be the first time that we get to use this. I've got this one here, which is a 6-inch, and then we've got a bigger model down there. And I want to go ahead and check the bottom of this, make sure that there's no dings from everybody throwing it around at the auction. That's where I had picked that up. So we're going to use my precision ground bench stones right here. Go ahead and give them a good rub on the face. This is a good example of when you can use these kind of stones is for jobs like this. Just eliminates any kind of little any little dings that get into these precision ground surfaces, it'll just knock them down, even with the surface there. So this is actually feeling pretty good. I felt a couple of little minor spots, which it's already got. It's feeling pretty good. And you get through with them, just rub them together, and we'll put them back in the box. So we are going to use we're going to use this rotary table probably for the job as well. And I'm going to clean this up a little bit. This is a good working rotary table. This is a Brown & Sharpe, and I'll probably just clean the top of the table up right here. We're going to go and stone it also, and we're going to end up putting this low profile chuck up on top of this later on, and we'll use this for our milling. Man, you just gotta love this low profile chuck. This thing is so sweet. Went ahead and pumped a fresh little bit of grease in there with the greaser, and we are ready to go. So by the way, I went ahead and drilled a reamed a 1/4 inch hole right in the center of this, and this is just for indicating purposes right there. I gotta adjust that set screw on that handle there. All right, we'll find the center of it, and we just got to mill a slot, drill and tap a hole. All right, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch carbide end mill to mill the pocket. I've got a little Sharpie line right here just because it doesn't have to go all the way across. I'm only going to be able to put one of these blocks on there at a time to do the milling. So we're just going to do a slot on one side right here. All right, we'll just go ahead and bring it off to the side here. Got it all the way up. We're going to lock the spindle here, or the quill, I mean. We're just going to do, let's do a 16th depth. Let's just go 60 thousandths. Pretty good right about there. Do our step over to one side. All right, I tried to give it about 1/1000th clearance there for the block to fit in there and not be tight. So there we go. We got it. It'll drop in there. We'll be able to bolt it right in there, keep it nice and square to the world, and hold it. So we're good on our slot now. We'll go ahead and get our hole drilled and tapped now. We've got the spindle lined up 400 thousandths off the center line of the fixture right here. So I've done my measurements on where the center of this hole is on this piece based off the radius right there. We got a 3/4 inch radius, so total of 1.5 inches in diameter right there. So I took half of the diameter of the hole, and then this wall thickness right there, that's 350 thousandths. And if you subtract that from 3/4, that leaves you 400 thousandths. So that's going to be the offset from the center right there. So that's going to be our drilled and tap location. And then so once we're drilled and tapped right there, once that's bolted in that spot right there, that's going to put us on the correct location. Once we offset our cutter and then we rotate that, we'll be on the correct arc right there. I'm just going to use a 3-flute gun tap. I believe our fixture is done, this part of it. So we'll get this mess cleaned up. We'll move on and start putting our holes in the blocks now. Let's go ahead and take our quick skim cut across the top. We're just taking a 1/16 off of all 4 of them. I'm going to go ahead and get the holes drilled in it. You can see right there we're pretty well centered up. It's exactly, the hole is 5/8 from this end right there to the center of the hole. And we're just going to drill a 1/2 inch hole through there. All right, we're going to repeat that 3 more times. We're going to go ahead and start cutting the radius on this side right there. So I've got one of them done. We got our setup ready to go. We got our stop in there, our parallels, everything's ready to go just like before. So we'll do it like we did the other blocks. What we'll do is we'll set them in there. We'll cut one side, flip it around and cut the other side. I'm just making sure that we're pushed against my stop very lightly. Tighten the vise up good and snug. And we are ready to go. Running 168 RPM on that cutter, feeding 1 inch a minute. Alright, that's not bad. It's got a little tiny flat spot on the top, so I'm gonna just make a slight adjustment, like maybe 2/1000ths, and run across there on both sides and hopefully feather that in and kind of blend in that spot right there. I'm gonna do that off camera because it's gonna take a few minutes. Here's the one that we just cut. Looking pretty good. A file will blend that in good right there. There we go. There's our other 3 blocks. Everything looks pretty consistent. Just going to go ahead and get the big old deathly burrs knocked off there. You can just kind of hit them with the file there and just go around the corner like that. Got another little file here, a little smaller mill smooth that'll kind of really dress the edge up nice. And also you can take this and go around that radius like that. That's how I did the other ones. And that's how you can really dress that up. See, you just keep dressing it with that mill smooth. Really starts making it look nice. So I'm going to give this a little handiwork here with the file, and then we're going to start setting up our fixture right there over on the mill, so we can set those down in there. I got to modify our 1/2-inch bolt. We got to turn this down and get that to where we can bolt that down in there so we can do our last op, which is going to be our milling. I want to check the machine surfaces of this rotary table here. Yeah, I can feel some high spots in it. You see those little dings right there. We're polishing them out though. Here's our modified bolts. That should work right there. Torque that down, go across there and do our milling. I got that turned down to the diameter so that our milling cutter will clear that and doesn't hit it. So we want to get the center of this rotary table in line with the spindle of this milling machine. So we've got a test indicator set up in a tool holder here. Just stuck it down in there, and we're going to start indicating it there. A little bit off. I just eyeballed the center of it there. So we've got a little bit to go. The only way that I know of that you can rotate this spindle in a neutral position like this is with the machine off. When the machine is on, you cannot, with the hydraulics engaged, you cannot move the spindle. It's completely locked. Zeroing out my XY up here because I think we got her pretty well centered right there. All right, so next phase is we'll put our chuck up here, and we got to do the same thing. We got to get our chuck centered on this piece now. All right, so here's how we're gonna center this guy right here. Let me go ahead and get my 4 bolts in there, but we're gonna use my center point and that hole right there to align this piece. All right, and so since all that is centered, this plate, that hole is in the center, I'm just going to run this knee up and just set it right there on that center point. Right there. It should be right there in the center. Go ahead and we'll go ahead and lock it down. A little bit of slack in that rotary table screw right there. I'm not planning on climb cutting it. I'm going to push cut or conventional mill. It should be just fine. So there we go. All we got to do is just do our offset for the cutter now, and we should be ready to go. Our depth is going to be 3/8 of an inch total. I'll probably do it in 2 cuts. All right, there's our touch off. We'll bring it up half that, 3/16. Look at that. We'll just go all the way around there with it. I think that's going to work out good. I left 10/1000ths to clean that face up. Let me go ahead and bring it up to our finished depth. Let me try doing a climb cut and see if it'll handle it. Got a little bit of pressure on the lock there to kind of keep the worm shaft a little taut. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good, don't it? Okay, that was only 5/1000ths. So let me go ahead and go back in to our 0 that I had it set on. All right, this is going to be our finish right here. There we go. Well, I think what all right, so the next ones, I think what I'll do is go ahead and we will leave a little bit on the bottom for a nice cleanup cut on the bottom there as well. But that is working surprisingly well. I'm real happy with the results. Very cool. Here goes our finish cut. Cutting the sidewall and the bottom at the same time. Looks pretty spiffy. Well, our fixture worked real good. Rotary table worked real good to mill our pieces right there. We're almost done. We got one more little radius that we got to mill in it, but I'm getting ready to break this down. So I'm just going to take the fixture out of the 3-jaw, but I'm going to leave this bolted to the rotary table. There's no reason to take that out unless I need it for another job because it's already centered up on there. So maybe something come up pretty soon where I might need that. I'm just going to store this underneath my workbench over there like I had it, and keep it set up on there. This is a perfect 3-jaw chuck for a rotary table. I love it. We're getting down to our last stop. So we got this radius right here that we're going to cut across the front. This is a 1/8 radius. So we have another corner rounding end mill that we'll use to cut that radius right there. So we'll get her set up and then I'll show you the cut. All right, that's our first one. Looks pretty good. Let's see if we can get a good repeat on that. going to use cutting oil for this, just a little bit of cutting going on. I'm just going to let her feed back across there, maybe clean it up a little bit more. All right, there we go. I think that looks pretty even. I keep hitting that parallel separator there. Looks pretty good. I like it. Well, these are all finished, all of the machining ops anyway. I think what I want to do is go over and set up my polishing wheel, my Scotch-Brite polishing wheel on my bench grinder, and go ahead and give these things a little bit more of a polish, especially around the edges and like the corners there where I use the corner round mill, and see what it looks like blending those things in a little bit more. It's not that it's necessary, it's just something that I want to do, just to kind of brighten them up a little bit more, make them a little bit nicer. But other than that, we're pretty well finished on these. Well, there they are, completely finished up. Besides my greasy fingerprints on them, they are polished, and I'm real happy with the way that 3M polishing wheel cleans these things up. That's exactly what I bought that for, and a good way that those things are used is to really deburr edges and polish in machine marks and sharp edges and things like that. So this really did turn out really good. Got a couple of little imperfections on here. This one got a couple chips clamped in there that I missed whenever I tightened that one up. So, you know, unhappy that happened there, but not much I can do about it. It's in there. And then this one right here still left that little bit of a line whenever I cut this radius on that last stop there. And the reason it did that, I didn't pay attention, there was still a little bit of a burr on this bottom edge that I had missed whenever I filed those. I forgot to file this when I missed it, and when I set it down in there on the parallels, this edge was kicked up, and when it went across there, it cut into that a little bit. So I've got it blended in there, but it's in there a couple thousandths still, and you can kind of visually see it. But I don't think that they're going to mind being what it is. It's just some clamps for that piece of stainless pipe that goes on an exhaust system. So there we go. These are finished up, and I believe they're going to be happy with those. I know I'm happy with them, and I'm glad to see them done. The polishing turned out real good on these, so I went ahead and took the previous 4 hold downs that I did on the other video, and I went ahead and polished those guys up as well. So I just thought I would show you that. See, they turned out pretty good. Polished that radius out right there, all of the edges, the outside radius right there. So we got all those polished out as well. So all of our hold downs are now complete, and we can go ahead and move on to our main stainless pipe and flange assembly that we need to machine now.